If you think money problems begin with not having enough money, you are already one layer too shallow. That is where most people begin. That is also why most people stay stuck. They think the problem is the number, the paycheck, the bill, the debt, the rent, the rising price of eggs, the student loan, the medical expense, the fact that someone else seems to be doing better. All of that matters. But it is not where the deepest problem begins. The deepest problem begins much earlier. It begins in the story you built about money before you ever had enough of it to understand what it was doing to you. That is where I would begin, if I were trying to rebuild someone's financial life from the ground up. Not with a stock tip, not with an app, not with some little budget trick that makes people feel virtuous for 3 days, not with a fantasy about making $1 million. In a week, I would begin with the story because beliefs dictate behavior, and behavior repeated long enough becomes destiny. That is not mystical language. That is plain arithmetic wearing human clothes. If you believe money is bad, you will behave badly around it. If you believe rich people are selfish, exploitative, manipulative, or spiritually corrupt, then some part of you will never allow yourself to become rich with peace. If you believe struggle proves goodness, then success may begin to feel like betrayal. If you believe money is stressful, ugly, dangerous, and always leaving, then even when you get some, you will tighten around it in a way that keeps you from using it well. If you believe that having more automatically makes you less moral, you will sabotage opportunities and then call the sabotage integrity. I have seen this pattern enough times that I no longer treat it as coincidence. People do not only earn according to skill, they also earn according to what their nervous system believes is safe to receive. That is a difficult sentence for some people to hear. I understand that, but I think it is true. You can tell me all day that you want more money. I am interested in something else. I want to know what you believe money would make you become. That is the deeper question. Would it make you greedy? Would it make you look like the people you resented? Would it make you arrogant? Would it make you corrupt? Would it make you disloyal to where you came from? Would it make you less spiritual? Would it make other people dislike you? Would it make you responsible for everyone else's pain? Would it make you feel exposed? Most people never ask those questions. They just say they want more money. Meanwhile, some hidden part of them is still whispering, yes, but not if it turns me into someone bad. That whisper has ruined a great many futures. I understand it because I have seen versions of it in many intelligent and decent people. They grew up around tension. Maybe their parents fought about money. Maybe there was always just enough and never any room. Maybe they watched one family with more and heard it described as shady, selfish, or suspect. Maybe they saw wealth and associated with betrayal. Maybe they watched divorce happen with money standing somewhere near the center of the room. Maybe they were dragged into adult anxieties before they were old enough to interpret them. The source material is full of this exact kind of inheritance: parental conflict around money, constant scarcity language, and the internal conclusion that good people are poor while wealth belongs to people doing something wrong. Fay-Felicite, Fay-Turn 29, File 12, Fay-Turn 29, File 4, Fay, and so they absorb something. Money is stress, money is danger, money ruins families, money changes people. Money is for the other kind of people. Money makes you bad. Good people do not have much. Good people struggle nobly. Then they become adults, and they wonder why every financial opportunity feels strangely complicated. It is not because they are incapable. It is because they are still protecting a moral identity built in childhood. That is why I say the money problem begins before the bank account. Now, I do not say any of this to deny external reality. Of course, the world distributes wealth badly. Of course, many people were handed poor access, poor education, poor rooms, and poor information. Of course, many people work very hard and take very little home. Of course, there are people trying to survive inside systems that do not reward their effort fairly. The source material says this directly. Many people are working really hard and not taking much home, and many were simply set up badly by lack of access and guidance. Fay-Felicite, Fay-Turn 28, File 0, Fay. But I also know this. A bad system does not become easier by adding an internal war on top of it. If life is already hard, the last thing you want is to make money morally impossible inside your own mind. That is why awareness is the first step. And I mean real awareness. How do you feel when money comes in? How do you feel when it goes out? How do you feel when you open your bank account? How do you feel when you pay a bill? How do you feel when someone asks you for money? How do you feel when you imagine having much more of it? How does your body react? Is your breathing shallow? Are you relaxed? Are you scared? Do you feel guilt? Do you feel power? Do you feel scarcity? Do you feel relief and then panic? The source text is unusually strong here. It says to notice how your nervous system reacts when you receive money, when you spend it, when you open your wallet, when you look at the bank account, when you pay a bill. That is not fluff. That is diagnosis. Fe Felicite Fe turn 28, file 0 Fe, that awareness matters because many people are not relating to money consciously at all. They are merely replaying an old nervous system response every time money appears. I would rather know the truth. A man who knows he fears money has a chance. A man who thinks he is just bad with money often stays trapped in vagueness. That phrase, bad with money, is one I have very little patience for. Not because some people are naturally gifted and others are not, because the basics are not mystical. Spend less than you make, save the difference. Invest it with patience. Avoid stupid debt, use tax advantages where possible. Increase earning power over time. Do not let your lifestyle eat every improvement. That is not quantum physics. That is structure. So when people say, I am just not good with money, what I often hear is something else. I do not want to look directly. I do not want to change the habits. I do not want to make the sacrifice. I do not want to interrupt the pattern I have gotten used to, even if the pattern is hurting me. That is much closer to the truth. Now let us go deeper. Suppose you have done the first part. Suppose you have looked at the way your body and mind respond to money. Suppose you have become aware that you feel stress, shame, scarcity, or confusion. Suppose you even found the old story underneath it. Now this is where most people make the next mistake. They think they must first feel perfect before they can move financially. They think they must heal everything first, become calm first, become worthy first, understand everything first. That can become another trap. I would rather say this: you do not need perfect healing to begin. You need enough awareness to stop confusing the old story with the current choice. That is a much more practical standard. And once you reach that standard, the next move is simple to describe and very hard to live. You go from helplessness to helpfulness. That phrase is one of the strongest things in your source material. And I think it carries a truth that a great many people miss. When people feel poor, broke, stressed, unemployed, burned out, or humiliated, their instinct is to collapse inward. They become understandably self-focused. They think, I need money, I need rescue, I need someone to give me something, I need an opening, I need luck, I need a check. Sometimes, yes, they may need help. But psychologically, the first shift toward abundance often begins when a person stops asking only, how do I get? And starts asking, how can I help? The source material puts it exactly this way. The best way to create abundance is to go from helplessness to helpfulness. Fe file site Fe turn 29, file 6, Fe turn 28, file 0 Fe. That is not sentimental charity language. It is a reorientation of identity. The helpless person says, I have nothing. The helpful person says, what do I already carry that somebody else values? That question changes everything. Curiosity is valuable. Energy is valuable. Reliability is valuable. Being able to listen is valuable. Being able to ask good questions is valuable. Being able to edit, write, speak, design, connect, sell, host, encourage, and solve problems is valuable. Being able to bring passion into a stale room is valuable. Being able to make another person's job easier is valuable. These things do not always look like money at first, but they are often the earliest form of currency. That is a point too many broke people miss because they have a narrow definition of value. They think value must already look like money before it counts. That is not how many opportunities begin. Many opportunities begin because someone felt your energy before they understood your resume. I have seen it too many times to deny it. The hostess with unusual energy gets 3 job offers. The young man who can shoot and edit a compelling video on the spot gets remembered by people with reach. The person willing to ask thoughtful questions in a room full of tired executives becomes interesting. The one who can help a leader with something simple but useful gains access. The one who follows up with warmth, competence, and momentum becomes impossible to ignore. Those examples are not theoretical. They are in the file. A hostess brought so much engaged energy and care to a table that multiple people wanted to hire her. A young creator shot and edited a quick video on the spot and instantly became memorable because he created value in real time. The point is not the exact job. The point is that energy, service, and initiative are currency long before the cash arrives. Faithfulness Fay turn 28 file 0 Fay. That is how life opens. Not always through brilliance, often through generosity plus usefulness. Now, when I say generosity, I do not mean naivety. I do not mean allowing yourself to be exploited. I do not mean working forever for free while telling yourself the universe will eventually notice your sacrifice. I mean generosity as a mindset. A generous person does not hoard his energy. He does not hide every idea because he believes helping someone else will leave him empty. He does not assume that every act of service is theft from his own future. He does not move through life saying, "If I share, I lose." That mindset keeps many people poor. Your source material makes this point beautifully. A major block to abundance is the belief that if you give away your ideas, time, wisdom, energy, or connections, then others will take them and run while you are left with nothing. That belief sounds protective. In practice, it often produces scarcity, guardedness, and smallness. It keeps the person hidden when life actually rewards those who can create value for others. Faithfulness Fay turn 29 file 6, Fay turn 29 file 12 Fay, and this is where it gets interesting. People with sustainably healthy wealth very often say the same thing in different language. They make more when they give more, not because giving is a crude vending machine, but because generosity expands network, trust, goodwill, self-respect, emotional range, and opportunity. It creates the kind of person others want around. It makes collaboration easier. It also keeps wealth from turning into a frightened little prison. Your source material says this repeatedly. Many very wealthy people report that the years they gave more, they also received more, and often most powerfully when they gave at a level that felt a little uncomfortable. Faithfulness Fay turn 29 file 7 Fay that aligns with what I have seen in real life. Now, I want to be careful here because this idea can easily be turned into nonsense by people who think it means give recklessly and the universe will mail you a check. That is childish. I do not believe in that kind of mechanical superstition, but I do believe this. A generous mindset changes behavior. Behavior changes relationships. Relationships change opportunities. Opportunities change income. Income, if handled well, changes life. That is real enough for me. And generosity is not only about money. This is another point the source material handles well. A person with no money can still be rich in attention, effort, kindness, energy, hospitality, thoughtfulness, and service. Some of the poorest people financially are richer in these things than the wealthy. Some of the wealthy are desperate in spirit because they have money but no ease, no trust, no peace, no meaningful bonds, no internal richness. A high net worth is not proof of freedom. It is only proof of a number. The file is explicit. A high net worth does not mean you are free. Faithfulness Fay turn 29 file 12, Fay turn 29 file 7 Fay. That is why I reject the lazy equation that money equals abundance. Abundance is larger than money. Money can support it. Money can make it easier in many ways. Money without internal peace can still feel like a prison. I have seen people hoard because they once had nothing and could not bear the thought of returning there. Externally, they looked successful. Internally, they were still on the sister's couch, still in the middle seat, still living with the same nervous system that expected loss. The account got bigger. The freedom did not. Your source material says exactly this in one of its strongest sections. Someone can have $1 million in the bank and still live as if they are trapped, because the money story never changed. Faithfulness Fay turn 28 file 0 Fay that is a devastating trap. It also explains why more money, more problems is such a half-true sentence. Money does not create inner wholeness. It amplifies what was already unresolved if you do not do the work. If you were fearful before money, you may become fearful with more zeros. If you were ashamed before money, you may become ashamed in a nicer house. If you were controlling before money, you may become controlling at scale. That is why the relationship matters. And if the relationship matters, then language matters too. How do you speak to money? How do you think about it? What emotional tone enters the room when you receive it? What emotional tone enters the room when you spend it? I actually think some of the more playful practices in the source material are useful precisely because they soften the fear, saying thank you when money comes in, saying thank you when a bill gets paid because it means a service supported your life, treating money as something you want a healthier relationship with rather than an enemy or a shame trigger. Even the money comes to me abundantly and freely experiment. Childish as it may sound to a skeptic, has a hidden strength. It trains the mind to notice possibility rather than only deficiency. It shifts attention, and attention is not trivial. People see more when they are looking for more. The text literally describes this as a social experiment in noticing, receiving, and saying thank you. Fay file site Fay turn 29 file 4, Fay turn 28 file 0. Fay, I do not mean that pennies become fortunes by magic. I mean that people miss opportunities every day because their eyes are trained only on lack. A person convinced there is no opening behaves differently from a person testing for openings. That difference matters. This is also why I think one of the best uses of a small amount of money is to invest it in courage. That is a phrase from your source material that I want to preserve, because it is excellent. If you only have $1,000 or $5,000, one of the smartest uses of it may not be a speculative investment at all. It may be a course, coaching, training, tools, or time that helps you build courage around a useful skill. Because courage precedes competence more often than people realize. They wait to feel ready. But the skill arrives after they risk looking foolish. Then the skill builds confidence. Then confidence changes behavior. Then behavior changes what they will ask for, attempt, and accept. The text phrases it this way: courage leads to action, action builds confidence, and confidence becomes a currency that changes earning power. Fay file site Fay turn 29, file 9 Fay. I believe that not every dollar must go to the stock market immediately. Sometimes it should go into the making of a more capable self. The important thing is that the money be treated like a builder, not a sedative. That brings me to the trap of easy money. I know of no desire more seductive and more dangerous. Everybody wants easy money. The ego certainly does. The exhausted person does. The hurt person does. The ashamed person does. The person behind on life does. Who would not? But most people who chase quick, easy money are not trying to build wealth. They are trying to escape emotion. That is why they get hurt. The crypto tip, the hack, the loophole, the thing everybody is suddenly doing, the investment they know nothing about. The course promising passive income by Tuesday. The scheme that sounds smart because it arrived wrapped in insider language. All of that is bait for a nervous system that wants relief faster than it wants understanding. Your source material says this cleanly. The author has money wounds from trying to make quick, easy money, not from learning how to make money easy through skill, service, and value over time. That distinction is one of the best in the whole file. Make money easy is not the same as make money quickly. Easy money fantasies usually end in pain. Money that becomes easier to earn over time because you built skill, reputation, generosity, and usefulness is something entirely different. Fay file site Fay turn 28 file 0 Fay. That is a distinction I trust deeply. Money gets easier when your character, skills, and relationships get stronger. Money gets harder when you keep trying to jump the line. You can always find a story about somebody who got rich fast that proves almost nothing. What matters is what works repeatably without destroying the person. And repeatably, what seems to work is far less glamorous. Build useful skills. Show up with energy. Help people. Be generous. Create value. Invest in yourself first when appropriate. Then, once income comes, learn how to receive it without fear and spend it without self-harm. That is not the stuff of flashy videos. It is the stuff of durable lives. Now let me say something that may sound strange coming from a man associated with money. I do not think the ultimate goal is to have a lot of money. I think the goal is to feel free. That matters because a person can have a great deal of money and still feel trapped. Trapped by fear, trapped by identity, trapped by anxiety, trapped by the need to look a certain way, trapped by relationships built on performance, trapped by the old money story repeating in a nicer room. Your source material contains one of the harshest and most instructive examples of this. A man worth hundreds of millions takes his own life. That should remind anyone paying attention that money is not the same thing as wholeness. Fay File Site Fay Turn 29 File 7. Fay Turn 29 File 9 Fay Freedom is a different project. Freedom requires enough money. Yes, it also requires a healthy relationship with self, a healthy relationship with giving, a healthy relationship with receiving, a healthy relationship with enough. That is why I care so much about internal richness. Can you feel rich before the account proves it? Can you feel grateful without lying to yourself? Can you live beneath your means and still feel abundant? Can you value generosity, character, courage, and connection enough that money becomes a tool rather than a god or a ghost? Those questions matter because they determine what happens when money finally comes. If you are poor in spirit, money will often amplify confusion. If you are rich in spirit, money can become an extraordinary servant. I have also come to believe that one of the great tests of financial maturity is whether you can both save and enjoy. Some people spend everything and call it living. Some people save everything and call it safety. Both can become prisons. The healthiest place is harder. Live beneath your means and feel abundant anyway. Save and invest for the future, but do not become so frightened that you cannot enjoy any of what you built. Spend on what truly matters, not what merely distracts. Know there are consequences to splurging on what you cannot afford, but do not use consequence as an excuse to become joyless. That middle path is not always easy, but it is real. Your source material circles this beautifully. You can be rich without much money if you know how to appreciate life deeply. You can also be miserable with a great deal of money if you never heal your relationship with yourself. The goal is not just financial increase. The goal is a life that actually feels rich while you are living it. Fay File Site Fay Turn 28 File 0 Fay Turn 29 File 7 Fay. And so if I were to rebuild a person financially from the inside out, I would do it in this order. First, awareness. How do you feel around money? What does your body do? What is your money story? What beliefs were inherited? Which of them are helping and which are poisoning you? Second, honesty. Stop saying you are simply bad with money. Start admitting where you are avoidant, ashamed, fearful, impulsive, or attached to struggle. Third, helpfulness. Ask what value you can create before asking only what rescue will arrive. Look for your current currency, energy, curiosity, service, skill, attention, follow through, helpfulness. Fourth, generosity and gratitude. Not because they are magical in some cartoon sense, but because they widen you, they make you more relational, more present, more open, more trustworthy, more able to receive without clenching. Fifth, courage. Use some of your resources to build courage around useful skills. Public speaking, writing, selling, editing, anything that lets value move through you more powerfully. Sixth, structure. Stop chasing quick money. Build ways to make money easier over time through repeatable value. Seventh, relationship. Treat money not as a shame object or a fantasy object, but as a serious tool you want to steward well. Say thank you. Use it wisely. Receive it without panic. Let it leave in ways aligned with your values. That, to me, is how a rich life begins. Not with a trick, not with a winning stock, not with a lucky break. Though luck is always welcome with a changed inner stance, because once the stance changes, behavior changes. Once behavior changes, outcomes start to move, not always overnight, but move they will. And that is why I do not think anyone listening should despair if they are broke now, ashamed now, stuck now, or confused. Now, confusion is not permanent. Scarcity is not identity. A money story is not a life sentence. But you must stop worshiping the story. You must stop letting childhood explanations run an adult economy. You must stop calling your fear integrity. You must stop pretending that wanting money and being good cannot coexist. They can. A good person can make a lot of money. A spiritual person can make a lot of money. A generous person can make a lot of money. A kind person can make a lot of money. The money does not decide that. The person does. And when that finally becomes believable to you, something very important happens. Opportunity stops looking like temptation. It starts looking like responsibility. Responsibility to use your gifts. Responsibility to serve well. Responsibility to build wisely. Responsibility to receive without shrinking. Responsibility to give without vanity. Responsibility to create a life that is not merely richer in dollars, but richer in freedom, relationships, ease, and meaning. That is the kind of abundance I respect. Not loud abundance, not social media abundance, not costume abundance, real abundance. And if you can build that inside yourself while also learning how to build useful skills, create value, and receive money without the old shame choking the process, then the financial side gets much easier to grow. Not because money worships you, because you finally stopped running from it. That is the story I would want you to live. And over a long enough life, it can be worth far more than the first million people spend so much time fantasizing about.